Elon Musk's latest directive to federal employees has thrown the government into turmoil. The Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, a newly established agency under President Donald Trump's second administration, has taken an aggressive stance toward workforce reductions. Musk, appointed by Trump to lead this initiative, sent a mass email demanding that all federal employees list 5 accomplishments from the previous week. The consequences for failing to respond were clear. Termination. The deadline was set. Midnight on Monday. The backlash was immediate. Agencies across the government pushed back. The FBI, the Pentagon, and the State Department all instructed their employees to ignore Musk's request. The directive was not within Musk's authority. Newly appointed FBI Director Kash Patel reinforced this in an internal memo. He emphasized that performance reviews would be conducted through established procedures. The State Department leadership responded similarly. Employees were assured that their department heads would handle communications with DOGE. At the Pentagon, a directive was issued to pause any response to Musk's request. The legal and political consequences of Musk's mandate began unfolding almost immediately. The demand was widely criticized by members of both parties. Republicans and Democrats alike called the directive an overreach. Senator John Curtis of Utah, a state with 33,000 federal employees, voiced concerns about the impact of mass firings. He pleaded for compassion. He pointed out that these were real people, with real families, with mortgages, with lives upended by arbitrary decisions. Representative Mike Lawler, a Republican from New York, questioned the legality of dismissing thousands of employees for failing to respond to an email. Meanwhile, Democrats escalated their rhetoric. Senator Chris Van Hollen called the directive illegal. He accused the administration of creating chaos to distract from economic concerns. Labor unions across the country prepared lawsuits. The Biden-appointed federal judiciary was expected to weigh in. Musk remained undeterred. He took to social media. On X, formerly Twitter, he defended his actions. He called the directive a very basic pulse check. He suggested that thousands of federal workers were doing so little work that they weren't even checking their email. He claimed that fraud was rampant. He alleged that identities of deceased individuals were being used to collect paychecks. He provided no evidence for these claims. Trump doubled down. He shared a meme mocking government workers. The meme depicted a list of accomplishments supposedly submitted by a federal employee. Cried about Trump, cried about Elon, made it into the office for once, read some emails. The message was clear. They were painting the government workforce as bloated, inefficient, full of people who didn't deserve their jobs. Inside federal agencies, morale collapsed. The uncertainty was suffocating. Thousands of workers had already lost their jobs. Some were terminated outright. Others were pressured into deferred resignations. The Department of Veterans Affairs was gutted. The Department of Health and Human Services saw drastic cuts. The IRS, already understaffed, faced reductions. The National Park Service saw rangers dismissed with no plan to replace them. The USAID was hit especially hard. Contractors received termination letters. These letters didn't even include names. Just a template. A nameless, faceless dismissal. Those affected feared they would struggle to obtain unemployment benefits due to the generic nature of their termination notices. The administration had frozen USAID funding. They shut down its Washington headquarters. They dismantled thousands of aid programs worldwide. The cuts extended beyond Washington. Government employees from coast to coast were affected. Despite the chaos, Trump's administration pushed forward. The White House dismissed criticism. Trump himself dismissed concerns about legality. He insisted that his administration was focused on efficiency, on shrinking government, on cutting costs. Yet the legal challenges were piling up. A judge temporarily blocked some of the USAID layoffs. But the administration continued withholding funds. The battle was far from over. The administration saw itself as waging a war against bureaucracy, against inefficiency, against waste. Critics saw it differently. They saw it as an assault on government institutions, an erosion of stability, a reckless gutting of essential services. Employees within the federal workforce were terrified. The ones who remained. They were afraid to speak out. They feared retaliation. They feared they were next. Would the next email demand more proof of their work? Would another arbitrary mandate result in their termination? There was no sense of security. There was only uncertainty. A waiting game. A government in crisis. A workforce in fear. The clock continued to tick. The deadline loomed. Monday night would determine the fate of thousands more. No one knew what would come next.